Holbrook New Media.
This is Jeffrey K. Holbrook. Welcome to the audio feed from holbrooknewmedia.com. Today, Geoff and Jeffrey, the weekly catch-up. We hope you enjoy the audio version. If you want to see what we look like, I will embed the video for this episode at holbrooknewmedia.com.
Hello everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of the Weekly Catch-Up number 37. More after this. And I did the wrong thing again. Well, you'd think after all the shows I've done, I would at least get the opening one right. Anyway, before I say anything more, I better introduce the co-host of the Weekly Catch-Up, Jeffrey K. Holbrook.
Yeah, one of the things I noticed you never do is tell them who you are.
No, but I'm Jeffrey Blanchard. I was just going to say, yeah. I was thinking that the day I thought I should say, hello, I'm Jeffrey Blanchard, and this is a Weekly Catch-Up. But I never say who I am, do I? So.
Well, no, you tell everybody who I am, so I guess everybody knows who I am, but they're not sure who you are until they read the screen. And of course, people who can't read might be at a handicap on that. Well,
that's right. So I better say, my name is Jeffrey G. Blanchard. No, I'm just making that up. There's no G in it.
There's no G?
Jeff. No, my parents very boring. It's just Jeffrey. That was it. No initial. No, anything else. So it's
my father doesn't have a middle name. It was Floyd Holbrook. And there you go. That was just it. You told me to remind you to talk about American Express checks, traveler's checks.
Oh yes, that's right. Yes,
you had a good story, from what I understand.
Oh, what I did in my many travels, I always remember the old Carl Malden days. Remember the Carl Malden from San Francisco, and he might have done all these thousands of films, thousands of TV shows, but he'll be always remembered for the man running around San Francisco and said, somebody's lost their American Express traveler's checks and don't leave home without them.
Exactly.
They said the poor fellow's done all these really good works and that, and all the main thing he'll be remembered for is this American Express advert and that. So with my traveling, I've always taken that to heart. I've always loved traveler's checks, and when I started traveling around about in the the late 70s. But back then there was no such thing as probably real plastic money then, was there? If you didn't have money, you didn't have money. You had to have either cash or you had to have traveler's checks. There was none of this use a credit card and get there. Well, somebody around I was about 18 when I first traveled, or somebody 18 years old wouldn't have a credit card anyway. You're too young and irresponsible for that. So always took traveler's checks, and I've been still doing that for years. And the last time I've really got traveler's checks was probably about 2012 or something like that. In 2012, and I'd still had about $500 left in traveler's checks, and I always like to have them as a backup when I travel. And these ones have been there that long. I was starting to get a bit worried, thinking, these will go out of date, or I won't be able to use them anymore. But they never go out of date. But so I thought, well, I'll go to the bank, because when I bought them, the $1 Australian got us $1.05 American. So I thought, no matter as long as I get face value, I'm ahead on that for that. But I got a little bit more because when I bought them, as I said, they were $1.05, and now I think we get 76 cents. So it worked out, would have got a little bit more. But so I went to the bank and thinking, this will be an easy thing. I'll just go to the bank and put my traveler's checks in and just sign them off and just put them in the bank, so I'll cash them in just in case not valid anymore. Well, that was a bit of an experience. So went to the counter and nobody knew what they were. What are these? Said the traveler's checks. Oh, have you seen these before? And I felt like such an idiot, as though here's Grandpa coming in with his gramophone record or something and looking for a gramophone needle or something. I just it really made me feel so. What's this? This guy's got these What are they? How do we do them? Oh, and
Well,
so somebody in the branch had to have a look at them, and then okay, a phone call to this branch head office. What do we do with these? We can't take these. They're not real money. It's not. I said they're American Express travelers checks. And while I'm looking up on my phone. I thought, yeah, American Express still sell travelers checks.
well, yeah, that's why I was wondering if maybe they just quit selling them altogether or something, because I haven't had any in several years.
No, but I thought I know you can still get them, but I think they still push ideally for the travel cards, which
Sure.
most people do use, and that's why I still had them, because with travel cards and different credit cards, you very rarely need to do that. But every now and then I like to have that, because there's what I don't like when I'm traveling. I know you can get these cards and I can put them into a machine to get cash out, but what I always I'm paranoid about when I'm traveling is I put my card into the machine and it doesn't come out.
Yeah, and then you're stuck on your trip without your card for the rest of the trip. Yeah.
Here you can just go. Well, if you're you just go in the morning and go to the bank. That's fine. But if you're traveling and moving on, you can't. And it's on the weekend. You may never be back at that branch. But at least they do cover that these days. They give you two cards.
Well, one of the things I have noticed that the last couple of times we've had cards replaced, there was a card for me and a card for her. Well, we've only got one card each the last times. And the one I got from my credit union, close to where I work at, it's basically a members-based banking type of system. It's like for the, the employees and everything. It's called a credit union. They gave me one card with both of our names on it instead of two separate cards, which is...
And that's not right. You can't do that, can you?
Oh, well, I mean, we both are authorized to use the card, but we only got one. So if we're in different places, which we aren't often, but if we were in different places, then that's kind of a problem,
Then you're not allowed to do that here, because no matter what you say with equality or whatever, you're not two people. You can't, even though you can have the same card linked to two different names, but you can't have two names on the one card.
All right. Well, that's like you say, that card, I didn't notice it, but whenever my wife pulled it out of my wallet last night to order some pizza locally, and she goes, "Well, look at this. It has both of our names on it." I'm like, okay, I think we're going to ask about that today. I'm going to check them out and see what the deal is. See if we can get a spare.
Maybe you conjoined twins or something like that.
Oh, yeah. No, well, we're definitely joined at the hip pocket as far as wallets go. I mean, a marriage contract as far as the church goes is, marriage, but as far as the state goes, a marriage contract is basically a combining of your assets to where you're one financial entity. That's what marriage is as far as the state knows. That's all they care about anyway. And so we've been combined now for more than 33 years. So, it's not likely it's going to be separated. We both have access to the accounts, but they only gave us one card. So if we're in different places,
that's the idea. That's the saver card. So the other one has to ask the other person, can they use it? Because somebody's got to hold it.
Well, yeah. Well, the other day we went into now they say on our regular banking account that I can actually go and get another card of my own. Well, we hadn't done that yet, which I guess we need to do that. We hadn't done that yet, and so she used the card to go in to get something in the store while I stayed in the car, and then she came back. She still had the card, and then I went to work and was going to get something on the way home from work a few days later, and I didn't have that card. And so I had to take it out of the other account. So it's kind of like, okay, and that account, I have some automatic things that come out of it. So, I have to then cover that money because I usually use that credit union card for a lot of automatic deductions, things like insurances and things like that. There's just the same price every month and they just automatically come out. So, it's a pain, but I guess that is better than, if you have, what we try to do is have a certain amount of cash on us and then the credit card, and we use the credit card all the time. But then if we run into a situation to where you can't use a card or something like that, if we're traveling, then we whip out the cash and do that.
That's what I do is when, and like, especially when you're traveling in America, you need cash just to be able to give that tip, which you don't have that problem here because we don't tip.
No,
So
I know you were telling me about that. I think that's funny.
You can use your card for everything, whereas even I still feel funny. I can't use my card and say, here, take this for a tip. When right, it just doesn't seem right. Where $5 or whatever in notes just feels like you're giving a tip.
Yeah.
But when you just write it on a bit of paper with a card, it just doesn't seem right to me.
Oh, okay. Well, we do that most of the time. We most often will actually include, because they hand it to you to sign, and it's not totaled at the bottom, and it has a line for you to put a tip and then to total it up. And so you've got to do a bit of math whenever you do that, and then you go ahead and sign it once you've determined what's going on, and you do your calculation, your tip. Now some of those have actual, on the receipt itself, it gives you a calculation if you're going to do 15%, or if you want to do a 20% tip, if you want to do a 25% tip, and they give you the actual dollars and cents calculated on that, so you can choose one of those. Legally, it's the normal courtesy, I believe, is 15%. When I was a kid, it was 10. Now it's 15%. Now that things have gotten more expensive, we need to put a higher percentage, just kind of like taxes. So anyway, but they give you the, how much it actually is if you're going to give a 15% or a 20% or 25% tip, and they calculate it for you. Isn't that convenient?
Yeah, that's very nice for you. They do some. You have a thing which says tip, and then the people just pay the bottom, just a normal amount, and that's it. It still has it on the thing, but then again, something that would something there that you would get a bill for food or a restaurant in America for $70. If you get a bill for that, the equivalent here would probably be about $160. So you're not going to give them any more than that, because it's all built into the price. Whereas it is quite, even when you do the 15-20% in America, it's still quite reasonable. We've got the decent thing, but I think that's what it is here. It's built they're already built that into the price, so charging that much.
There were people last couple of years ago, they were demonstrating to get paid more than twice as much as what they normally get paid working for McDonald's. And it was going to bring the prices up to, the salaries up to about where they are in Australia, what you were explaining to me in Australia. So they were talking $15 an hour, to work there. Right now it's, I know at least it starts out at minimum wage, which is around $8 and something an hour. And so if they did away with the tipping system, and then they raised the actual salaries of people there, then people would give a second thought to actually leaving tips, no matter what they cared about what they look like, simply because they were paying so much for the meals to start with. It's the same thing you have, that they would not want to tip because of that.
That's right. So even then, I hadn't finished with the American Express thing.
Oh, still going.
That was still going. So after they got confirmation from everybody in the branch that yes, there were American Express travelers checks, and yes, they phoned up the head office to say whether there were, and then she licked them, scraped them, put them up to the light, did all sorts of, make me feel really nice in front of all the people there. So, this criminal, he is trying to palm off. And I said, look, I've got a check account with you. I've got all my money with you. Just deposit them in the account. If I'm a thief, you won't honor them. You'll just, like every check, I said I can scribble on a bit of paper, $500, you'll deposit that into my account, no questions asked. I said, but then you won't give me the money until it's cleared. I said, so just take the dance things and deposit them in. Oh, I can't do that. And I said, well, you do everything else. So we've got to find out. So I thought I'd just go down there quickly in my lunch hour.
Oh,
and nearly an hour and 50 minutes later, I phoned the boss. I said, I haven't died. I said, I just came to the bank quickly. I'm still here and I'm still waiting. I was getting quite annoyed, and then it said, oh no, now we found out all all the things we got. Now you've got to sign them. It says, yes, I know what to do, and I'm not signing them until you've got everything right. Because once they're signed, they're sort of voids. And then if you say I can't do it, well, then the next place won't take them because they're already signed. So because they've got to be signed in front of the person who's taking them.
Right.
And
what you need to do now is to send them a bill for your hourly rate for 2 hours of your time.
But the worst thing was, though, that was the second transaction.
Oh.
The first transaction was I gave them $75 in US cash. I wanted a cash. Now that took 15 minutes, even though it was real money, and then she had to get a book and match them up with yes, that's George Washington. Yes, that's what. Oh, now that one. Match them up to everything else. I said, oh, it was just really getting painful, and I was getting annoyed just at that. And I thought, little did I know I was even going to get worse. So after about an hour and 50 minutes, I got them signed in. I got a receipt. It got put into my check account like I'd suggested after 5 minutes of there. And I said, look, I don't mind. I know I'm not going to just leave them until you clear it. If there's something wrong, yeah, well, I don't get the money, do I? If I don't come back and do the right thing or whatever. So she did it all, put it in the account, got the receipt, went, and I thought it all done. Got a call yesterday from the bank. So this was a week and what it said, just over a week since I've done it. Oh, I haven't done it right. You'll have to come back into the branch today.
Oh, boy. Did you ask him? Well, you need to bill them now for 4 hours, sounds like to me.
Well, on all the checks, they have where you sign them and date them.
Right.
And that's all you have to do. There's a little one to say who to pay like a normal check, but nobody ever fills that in. It's just a signature and a date. Oh, no, you've got to write your name. Who is it paying?
Okay.
Well, technically, it's not me, but you say, oh, no, you've got to sign your name there. So I suppose if I signed it over, it said sign it over to Jeffrey K. Holbrook or Hilton Hotels or whatever you do. Right. But I've never done it before. And I said, if you go anywhere, you go to Las Vegas, as long as you sign it, they'll just give you the money. They'll take and that's what the whole point of travelers checks for. It's as good as cash.
Yeah, it is cash. I mean, operationally, it's cash.
And that's why as long as they're not signed, doesn't matter if you sign them. It doesn't matter unless they're on the stolen list, and you'd have a list of that. But I thought, my goodness, I thought, no, I'll never buy that. I was just really worried because I hadn't looked at what type of travelers checks are where. And I thought, oh my God, I hope they're not Thomas Cook because that's not as popular. So that's sort of the English one. And I thought, haven't heard, but I thought if they're American Express because I know they're still about. So I thought they'll still be valid. So the moral of the story is don't keep your travelers checks too long. I think it's a bit like if you go and now that actually LPs are coming back though, aren't they, records? So people know what they are, whereas some people, what's a record? But I mean, they are coming back these days. So it's maybe that's another thing. Maybe travelers checks will come back and everybody will know what they're like. But that's what with banks is they're very, very keen to take money when it suits them, but if it's anything to give you anything back, they don't like it one little bit. They're trying to do some reforms here with the bank. So this is a novel concept, isn't it? They want to have a reform that if you transfer some money into my account, I get it straight away.
Okay.
Yeah. Whereas at the moment, if I transfer money out of my account to you,
right,
it goes out of my account straight away,
right, but
it won't get into your account for 3 days.
Yeah, because
they've got the technology is there. Like if I want to take it out, it goes out like that, and so it can go in like that too. But it's said they've got 3 days where they're getting all the interest on it. And all that, and I think just imagine the amount but that's what they're trying to do there to be a bit more fairer, saying, well, you've taken the money straight away, so you're the loser. Why can't you put it in there straight away? And it's just
Well,
saying,
they want to hold on to it and just see what it feels like. They probably want to get 3 days of investment out of your cash.
that's what it is. I mean, you imagine all the people are doing that to it. It'd be billions every day, wouldn't it? So,
Yeah, you could make a lot of money on $1 billion in 3 days.
and that's sort of the same. We just think of the $200 or $300 we might be transferring, but it's but if I go to a supermarket and use my credit card or debit card, before the cashier's giving me the card back, the money's out of my account. It's gone.
Oh, they're going to take it quickly. No question, mainly because you don't have any say in it. Now, the best thing that ever happened to me at a bank was when I met my wife in the cash vault.
Oh, that's found sounds.
Well, no, it's funny. You know, of course, wife shopping in the cash vault is not something that most people do, but I was working at a bank in the cash vault, and she came in, and like you say, she was a teller on the main line up like you were just dealing with. A little more intelligent though. But whenever it came down to it, each day they had to come down into the cash vault, into the secured area to get their cash drawer, and then a security guard would take them upstairs to the front line, the tellers. So we basically got to see each other every day, and my desk area where I worked at was right where all the tellers stood waiting to go upstairs. And so we would strike up conversations here and there, and we kind of found out that we had quite a bit in common. And the funniest thing was this is off the beaten path as far as banking goes, but the funniest thing, we both found out that we both went to church and came from that type of background. And so we got into a conversation about what was the funniest thing you ever saw happen in church. And where we had a family singing group, we saw a lot of things happen, just funny stuff, like the time whenever my dad was getting cords and microphone stands out of the way for the minister, to make sure everything was cleared on the stage so the minister could preach. And he got tangled up in 2 of the microphone stands and the cords and went completely over the altar, hugging those stands, and landed right down in front of everybody. And there was and he just stood up and said, just kind of stood up and goes, everybody said, "Are you okay?" He goes, "Oh yeah, I'm all right. I knew it was going to happen one of these days." And they just got on with the service, and that was the end of it. So, but there was another time whenever this grandmother was holding her little toddler grandchild in her arms, and the kid grabbed her wig and threw it up in the choir loft. Well, she said, these were my stories. She said the funniest thing she'd ever seen happen was she was in a church service, and all of a sudden there was this group that was singing, and it was this little tiny church out in the country, and there was no air conditioning, and it was really super hot. And one of the singers, it was a young boy, got so hot that he actually fainted on the stage. And the minister went and grabbed him and picked him up, was fanning him and running him outside, and it just disrupted the service, and, and all that, and taking him outside and everything like that. And I said, "Well, what was the minister's name?" And she said, she told me, and I said, "That was us. That was our family singing group." My little brother passed out. So when we were 12 years old, we were both in the same service, and she remembered because that happened to my little brother when we were at the church, because that guy had been our minister. He was a pastor at our church, and so he was preaching a revival out there, and we went out to sing for him in one of the services, and it was us. And that was the funniest thing she'd ever seen happen. It embarrassed her for a second, but I think that's probably when we made our connection right there, because that was just funny.
I think, like you said as well, it's even funnier because, when people are in church, they're all dressed up, they're all proper and doing everything correctly.
Yeah.
When something silly happens, it even makes it 10 times funnier, doesn't it? Because that lady with the wig, I can just see her all dressed up properly, had her hair done perfectly, and then
there it goes, throw the wig up in the choir loft. But I mean, but people are human, and things happen in church the same way they do at work or anywhere else you might happen to be. So, but that was kind of, I think, when we probably made our connection, because that was just the funniest thing she'd ever seen. And it turned out it was us. We were singing at the church that day, and my little brother was the one that passed out. So that was funny. So I guess that's a good title. I don't know, wife shopping in the cash vault, something like that.
Well, I always wanted, one of my earliest jobs that I wanted, never got, was to work in a bank.
Yeah.
And I think probably why it was because in the early days, they were the only places that had computers, and I was really fascinated when they all got into the early. Oh, they're putting when they have to type in on the machine and do all that, and early on, you had your passbook, didn't you? Where they they start off writing, you deposit that, they get that, but then they got these ones that typed it in, got your passbook and put it in the printer, aligned it for about 3 minutes, and all it's just done is $20 or whatever you did.
Yeah, but boy, it sure was an awful lot of and for $20. Yeah. No, we actually had a mainframe computer in a big refrigerated room with a raised floor and the whole bed. I mean, we had the whole deal. We were the largest bank in the state before they started doing branch banking, and it was pretty funny.
But like it was the same with us, with the banks, and that you don't mind so much if they to keep the banks going and if they're struggling or something, but they're the ones that make the biggest profits ever, and then say the last 6 months has been the biggest one of earning the billions of dollars, and you think, well, they could just do a little bit, but then I suppose like everything in business, it's there for the shareholders. It's not just to keep you going, it's keep the shareholders investing, right? So
exactly. Well, our only interest is serving you. Legally.
That banks are guaranteed, so as long as you're never going to lose your money on them. So while they're doing that, you keep that up. I don't mind that. Yes, I know they might be expensive, but at least you don't worry about them not being there the next day anyway. But it's and getting back to the American Express, after all that time, I said to the lady, I said, you do know I was in your Dandenong branch about 3 months or 6 months ago, and I was inquiring about a home loan. She said, oh, yes. Well, I said, they approved me for $480,000 loan quicker than you've done this.
What'd she say?
Oh, really? Because I said, I've sat down, filled out the paperwork, typed in a few things, and I got that approved quicker than I can bank $500 worth of travelers checks. And I said, I'm not really asking for anything here.
Just what I already have. I just want it honored. That's all. I already own this.
Being the nice person I was, I said, look, you don't know. I said, you just do what you have to do. I just don't. I said, but do that so you don't get into trouble. You can put it into that check account and mark it so it's not cleared until everything's done right, because I said I don't want you to get into trouble or anything. So I had all the options that they could do on that, but as I said, then today that's finalized, so I hope that's the last time I have to go in. She said, oh, thanks for coming back, and that was great, but I thought, yeah, I wonder if I'll get another call saying, oh, no, you signed the wrong name. I said,
well,
I should have signed.
Say, well, let's see, which alias am I using this week? Now, what you need to do is to make sure that, I'm serious, you need to bill them for your time.
Well, yeah, I should do on that, but because I'm sure they would do to me if I was delinquent in paying them back. To do if you do on your credit cards and they sting you for interest or something like what really annoys me is I never get too much into debt, but with my credit card sometimes I pay too much off it, or sometimes what I've done there, I bought something and just transferred the money to pay for it, but I put it on the wrong card that doesn't have it on. Once you transfer money, you can't get it back.
No.
They won't unless you spend it. So, and I've done that before. And then once I've had it too much, and then it's there for months, and then you get this insulting statement, say you've got 2 cents interest. Where they said, but if I'd had it 6 months, it would have been about $250 interest on it. But if I leave that one in there, I get, if I'm lucky, 2 cents. And I thought, how does that work?
Well, no, because they legally can charge you. You really can't, you don't have any recourse. We're the last ones in line whenever they take your money from you. There's nobody we can turn around and steal from to cover what we lost or whatever like that. We're the last ones in line. So they just stick it to us, and we don't have anybody behind us we can steal from.
I think they should. If they're going to charge you what is it here on a credit card rate? I think it's about 27%. I think it is if you go over on the credit card here. So, but as I said, if you do it the other way, that goes back to the 1.3% or something. So, which is next to. But I mean, it's not there to make money for us. It's we're there to make money for them. So
totally. Speaking of government type of stuff, I had an interesting experiment in responsive government this past week. A friend of mine at work, he is a veteran. He was in the Army, and he was a veteran. And there is a bill in the state legislature. This don't have anything to do with the national or Trump or anybody. The state legislature that they would make it possible for veterans, that are, have been in the military, to be able to take advantage of hunting and fishing and stuff like that in the state for free, without paying for a license and all the stamps you have to get to do this hunting or that hunting or whatever, and they would be able to do it for free. So he was kind of joking, and he said, well, if you happen to write a letter to your, congressperson, he said, I just kind of mention that, would you? And I said, okay. When I got home from work that morning. This is 5:00 in the morning. I sent to our 2 representatives from my area, again, just from our local county area, our district. This is the letter I sent. I had the House bill number on the thing. It's not come up yet, but it's like, and I said, let's see. Wait a minute. I've got his reply before mine. I said, greetings. I have noticed this bill on the agenda, and even though I am not a veteran and wouldn't personally benefit from it, I would like to speak up for our veterans. Service to our state and country has entitled our veterans to some benefits, many of which have been administered poorly. And I put in quotations, think the Veterans Administration. Okay. Giving the veterans the right to hunt, fish, and trap without being subjected to the usual licensing and fees is a simple thing and would be excellent for these reasons. Number 1, it can hardly be screwed up like the VA. Number 2, while it would only be a small decrease in state revenue, I think making it more affordable would increase participation, helping the charities that accept wild game, cut and wrap businesses, which are the butchering type businesses, and other related industries in our state. And number 3, veterans with their high-grade weapons training are simply the safest people in the woods. These people totally deserve this and more. Please promote and say yes. And I put my name. Well, I thought, okay, well, I did my duty. Yeah, I did my duty. Well, this is 5:00 in the morning before daylight. 10 minutes later, I got a reply.
Oh, that's unusual, isn't it?
Yeah, it was like 5:10 in the morning. The guy must have just woke up, found it on his phone. Okay, this says, Mr. Holbrook, thank you for taking an active role in your government. As a fellow Putnam County resident, I'm a proud hunter and outdoorsman. I also was raised to support our veterans. That is why I will support this legislation, which will help our veterans enjoy the beauty of our state to the fullest. Once again, thank you for reaching out. Please let me know if you would like to visit my office at the Capitol. And he tells me what room he's in. His name is Joshua K. Hickenbotham, and he's listed as youngest member, West Virginia House. And so, District 13, which is the district I'm in. Now, he is, I am an independent. So, I'm not in either of these guys' parties. This guy's a Republican. Then the Democrat sent to me about 3 hours and something later. There was a message from it was almost 5 hours later. It was 10:00 in the morning, which is normal business hours. I got a message back from the Democrat. And there's a different tone to this one. It says, thank you, Mr. Holbrook, for the input. I agree we should do more for our veterans to show our gratitude for their service. I'm actually lead sponsor on a bill that would require existing government resources, no additional cost to taxpayers, be used to direct returning veterans and displaced coal miners along with others toward good-paying jobs in construction via the apprenticeship model. I have no problem with granting veteran sportsman rights as long as there's no major financial impact to our state.
Oh.
His name is Scott Brewer. And so that one to me had more of a let them eat cake type of a feel to it. It was kind of like, as long as it doesn't cost anything, I don't mind granting rights. Privileges are things granted. Rights are things that people intrinsically have. And so he's talking about granting rights. I don't know. I couldn't believe I got answers that quickly from both of them. And I thought that was really cool. But again, the two different attitudes there is like, oh yeah, gung ho, let's do this thing. And the other guy was just, well, if it doesn't cost us anything, I'll be happy to, grant them some additional rights. And I'm thinking, okay, kind of an imperial feeling to it. I thought that was kind of funny.
I think anything, a lot of the things for veterans, I think we poorly treat them a lot of the time because, I mean, they're there to protect the country, they do their service, and then when they're done, and usually when they're not in the service, it's because they've been injured and they can't physically do it, or physically or mentally, and then they just get thrown on the scrap heap a lot of the time. And one thing I do like when you have Veterans Day. But then it sometimes makes you feel warm inside when you just see some people's reaction, and they go, and then if they see somebody in uniform, and they just go up and thank them for their service, and I just think that's just so. That means more to anybody than anything you can give them. Whereas some of these people now, all these do-gooders, they abuse them, saying, "How dare you fight?" They're fighting for the country, whether you think it's right or wrong. They're protecting their country. They haven't got the thing to say what's right, to decide whether they can do this and that. They've got to follow orders. If they didn't, we'd get nowhere. And I thought they're just doing their bit for the country. And if everybody stood back and didn't do that, we wouldn't have any would be overrun with everything, wouldn't we? So they give their life.
The people that make the most demands on their rights as citizens are the ones that have the least the least chance of wanting to do anything to earn them. Then they make the most demands and make the most demands on citizenship, and are the most active in demanding rights of this and rights of that, and they're the ones that are the least apt to expect to pay anything for those rights, is what it is.
And the thing is, like that bill that you're saying as well, anything that the government doesn't have to outlay anything, they just don't bother collecting it. So it's whereas when they say, "Oh, give them this, give them that," that's where people can kick up. But they're not asking for money. They just say, instead of the $25 shooting license or whatever it is, you can come in there. We'll just give you one, show your badge, your service certificate. You'll get that. Whereas instead of us taking, so we don't have to hand out money to you.
Well, I mean, it's so expensive for some that don't have much income that there are many that would go out and actually get themselves more food by doing this. And I think that it would actually increase some business, related businesses that are involved in the hunting industry, such as, guns, ammunition, like you say, the cut and wrap business. They call it here cut and wrap, but it's actually the butchering type of business. They call it cut and wrap business here. And there's a lot of charities that actually, there's people who enjoy hunting, don't necessarily need the food, but there's charities who will accept wild game in their food services to give food to the poor. And so there's a lot of veterans that would probably totally participate in that, even if they didn't necessarily need the food, but they would because the idea of just shooting something for sport doesn't wash around here very well.
No, use something. And that's the thing is, if you go, some people are dead against the hunting and that. I am just for sport, but if it's a sport and you use you're going to eat it, use the kill for something useful. Sure. Yeah, that's fine. But just to shoot something and just leave it there and not use it, that is a waste.
That's not looked upon very nicely around here, and I don't know of anyone who does it or anybody who finds anybody doing it. It's just not done here. A conservation. What's so funny is the biggest conservationists that we have are hunters. And management of the local deer herds, I guess, whatever you call them, and all that. I mean, that is the whole point is sustainability. And again, I know people that feed their families. They'll get 5 or 6 deer. I think it's funny, when we first moved in 20 some years ago here, there were record deer harvests over those next 2 years, and the deer population went up both years. Because we just have deer everywhere. People are hitting them with their cars. I mean, it's pretty bad.
But it's quite strange, like you say, with the people try and conserve things and don't even understand. Like we had things here where they had cattle in the high country in the forests and all that, and then some people got onto them and no, you're not allowed to have them there anymore. And then people are banned from going in there because of traipsing down the countryside and the wrecking the forests and all that. But then after they got people not going there and the stopped the cattle from going in there, then we had these horrendous forest fires.
Right, because of the undergrowth got big and
the cows weren't eating the undergrowth. There was no natural fire breaks because nobody had been in there, whereas humans had gone in there and done a track, so there was a sort of bit of a natural break somewhere, but there was nothing. It was so overgrown. And so what's that? That's okay. Yes, the humans might have wrecked a bit of a path, but the whole forest sort of was burnt down. So I thought, how can that be any better? But as I said, it always sounds good, and it sounds good on paper. Keep the natural thing going and protect the forest. But you've got to think of the other things. And like here, they said like the Aborigines in thousands of years ago, they used to set fire to the forests
specifically
because they used to know, because they know if we don't, it's going to get too much and we kill us all eventually. So they used to burn bits down, and then people stopped doing that so much. So they do. And our biggest fires usually is when they have controlled burn-offs, when some people don't have any idea. They do a burn-off in a 100-degree day where they don't understand how a bushfire could catch on.
Like in a high wind.
20-mile winds and boiling hot, so they set a fire. And I didn't think it would get away from us, but
well, yeah. There's serious liability around here if a fire gets away from you and starts burning, because we have a lot of forest land around here. In the United States, we're just full of forest land everywhere, and so it's. I would say there's 4 houses here in my general area on almost 100 acres, and I would say 80 of it is all woods.
Woods.
Yeah, of the 100, 80 of it's all woods. You've got enough room for, roads to the houses, the yards and barn and, things like that. I guess I'm the only one up here that has a real barn, but I mean, and so, but most of it is woods on that 100 acres, and there's 4 houses here. So there's plenty of wooded property all over the place. Our state's just full of it. And, when you go out west, I think there's more, where there were woods to start with, there's more there. I remember seeing a black and white picture. What was it? When did photography kick in? I think it was taken on a glass plate. So it was late 1800s, early 1900s, whenever photography came in. And there was a picture, and it was a river, and not stacked, but just where they fell. I can't remember how many deep were animals, dead animals, all up and down this river. And what happened was the local municipality decided that it was inhumane to shoot animals.
Oh.
And so they stopped them. And I can't remember how many years in this was. It was only like 5 or 6 or 7 years or so. And all of a sudden the animals started dying because there was no control over the herds. When the people moved in, of course, it moves out large predators, like wolves taking down things. And so they move out, but the deer stay. And so they had these huge die-off. And so when it got to the point to where people started dying from the disease that was engendered by all these dead animals laying around everywhere, how do you think they solved their problem?
No.
They hired out-of-state hunters to come in and decimate the herds.
And as I said, they said it always sounds good to protect them, but as I said, there's some things they're going to starve to death.
Well, they killed them,
because that's why. Because if they didn't kill them, it's just cruel to that. And like we have the same. Remember when people used to wear fur coats and that, and things that you very rarely saw foxes, a lot of foxes and rabbits around. But now they're just in plague proportions because nobody wants anything to do with fox fur or rabbit fur to do that. So nobody will hunt them and do them for that, so they just take over. So you know how rabbits go, don't you, as well?
Oh, no.
But as it said, you see foxes all over the place. Like when I go down to the horse, there's tons of foxes down there that you see there. But it's but they're in suburbia. But nobody's allowed to shoot them or anything. But then again, we've got that other problem that nobody has guns here to shoot them anyway. So it's probably only the really dedicated hunter, and then they've got to go through so much rigmarole to get a license to keep the gun. It's unless you're really, really keen, it's just not that worth it to be bothered doing that, I don't think, here. So,
Yep, I can understand. I can understand that.
Yep, we've got on to all different things this week, haven't we? So
we surely have. Your turn. Come up with a good topic. Oh, wait a minute. I did see a video right before I come on today.
Yeah.
There was somebody, and they were in a national park out west, and there was this big open field within view of the road where the people can drive through and see all the wildlife and stuff. And the guy sits down on the road. There's no cars coming. He sits down on the road and starts taking pictures of these elk over in this field over here. Oh, well, he gets some pretty good pictures, and then one is getting closer and closer, and it's a young bull elk. And somebody else was videoing this while it was going on. He was just taking still shots, the guy who was involved here. And this elk is coming up to him. And from what I can tell after watching the whole thing and the behavior, it really wanted to play. Like you'll see these young elk, butting into each other with their horns and stuff like this. And this thing had 18-inch spike horns on its head.
Oh.
Okay. Anyway, so this thing came down to him, and he's sitting on the ground, so the elk's taller than he is. And it puts its head down, gets his head between the horns, and just starts kind of pushing on his head. With its forehead, with its head. And the horns are coming up around his head like this. And then it kind of backs off and looks at him. And he just keeps his head down and keeps putting his hat back on when it knocks his hat off. And I mean, this went on for several minutes while this thing is trying to get him to play. And, it never did charge him. It could have just impaled him, and that would have been bad. But, it never did charge him, but it's kind of pushing him around. And the thing would back off, and he would kind of reach his camera up and take a picture, and then he'd put his head back down when it came back to him. And I guess he got some really good, elk pictures, but, but finally the thing's doing it. And he finally basically, his friend, whoever he was with, came up in the car, and he was able to get up and go get in the car, but he left his, what he had his main camera, and then he had what looked like a spotting scope on a tripod, and then his pack, looked like one of them low pro packs, was hanging off of the tripod, and it was laying down on the ground when all this was going on. And as soon as he got back in the car, he thinks, okay, this is good. Well, the elk then goes over and starts sniffing around the tripod and the pack. And at this point, this thing decides, well, hey, and it starts pulling on the pack and trying to get it open and trying to get out. He might have had a snack or something in there or whatever like that. It's worth getting out of the car to save your pack, and so he goes over there, and the car actually, the guy driving the car then actually takes the car and drives over there and starts tooting, and the thing backs away across the field, and he gets out and gets his stuff, and then the guy who was doing the videoing kind of slowly pans over here, and not too far off the road, there's the elk sitting there going, oh man, doesn't anyone want to play? This guy could have been, I'm serious, these antlers were good 18 inches long, just spike antlers, 18 inches, and could have just poked this guy bad. And as strong as, they can push, and this big old beefy, bull elk, and like I said, it was a young one, you could tell, but because of the spikes and everything, but very, very dangerous situation, but you could tell, he just wanted to play. He wanted to play butthead, and he didn't really understand that he didn't have any antlers, and it wouldn't have worked out very well for him if he'd have played the game,
Well, that's what they do. The kangaroos are a bit like that here, where people don't understand, and a lot of them are quite friendly, where they'll go there, you'll go up to them, and they'll come up to you and put their little hands on your shoulders.
Oh, yeah, and all of a sudden, whack.
No, what they do, they grab, but that's what they do. They grab hold of your shoulders, sit back on the tail, and their feet have got these like claws, and they rip your stomach out.
Oh, nice.
And they're really quite deadly because if you get these 6 foot ones, they're bigger than people. They've got you, but everybody thinks they're playing. There was a kids TV show. I remember years ago when I was about 12 or 13, they had a kangaroo on the television show. I said, and they had how some of these kids shows have a man dressed up as in a Mickey Mouse costume or something. It was, and then they went up to and the kangaroo grabbed him by the shoulders and just started kicking the crap out of him.
That's what I was worried about, was the kicking. I mean, that's like getting kicked by a horse multiple times is what that would be like.
If it wasn't in this thing, it would have ripped his stomach because, they're really
they got
claws on them. But and I think underneath it, the poor bloke was really worried because he couldn't get up. It really got him down to the ground, and everybody was laughing. And I thought, the poor devil in there would have, because it's and like you said, and those kangaroos, I can go out filming anywhere around the back here where the horses are and that, and on a Sunday morning you'll see 6 to 10 of them just there eating the grass and that, and they look so cute, but you could quite easily go up to them, but you just watch out for them. But they're not the sort of things that will come up and attack you, but if you come up, they will stand their ground, but they don't. I've never seen one come up physically attack you. The only time I've had a problem was years ago out riding the horse. And horses don't tend to like kangaroos because they're a bit like Sylvester the cat. Think the big bouncing rats or something. So mice and that. So I was out on the horse and went one way, and the horse saw there was about 5 or 10 kangaroos bouncing around, and he didn't like that. So he decided to turn around. So, well, turn around. And then they were behind us and at the side. So he had to get over it because it was all over the place. So he had to get used to that. So, but I've found as well that in the early days, they used to have before they had a lot of gun control, because in the early 70s people could get guns and all that. And where I used to ride the horse first when I started, there was a gun club there, and people used to go shooting and all that. And it's amazing. You'd never see wildlife, never see kangaroos, whether they were shooting them or not, or whether the noise just kept them away. But as soon as they banned all that and it stopped doing that, the wildlife seemed to return. So there's always tons of kangaroos there. I think now in New South Wales, I think there's more kangaroos than there are people. I think they say something like there was 10 to 12 million kangaroos or something there. So, but then it's unlike, I would never see. What's your bald eagle? That's the symbol, American symbol, isn't it?
Yes.
And so that's a symbol for Australia, the kangaroo. But then they slaughter them and eat them. But I don't think it'd be very nice to.
I was wondering about that because there's this big deal about beef jerky, type of stuff. There's even chain stores that's all they sell is various types of jerky, and you can get kangaroo jerky. So where are these, like on farms in America or something, or where do they get kangaroo for that type thing?
Maybe we export because we do kangaroo. I bet kangaroo hamburgers, sausages.
Really?
Yeah, we do have it in the supermarket. We have that for sale. So, because as I said, well, why not? They've become they said it's horrible to say that, but it's rather than the same thing as you said with the animals in there. Better farm them and kill them humanely if it's feeding the population, rather than just shooting them to cull them for the sake of it. You might as well do it and make an industry out of it. It's a bit like we have, like when you get over there, the sulfur-crested cockatoos. Like in America, you can pay $10,000 for a sulfur-crested cockatoo, because you can't get them, so people have to smuggle them in and do that. Here there's so many of them about there, but why don't somebody just export them properly? To the other places and do that rather than having some poor bird being stuffed into a box illegally and most of them dying by the time they get over there. But as I said, we get tons. Well, if you get an area where there's too many of them, they peck your window frames out, and because they're very, very damaging. So, and as I said, I've just had mine. I had my sulfur-crested cockatoo, but he just died in the winter last year. So he was 42 years old. So.
Wow. Well, no, I have trouble with the local birds that we have here. I have a wood siding on the side of my house. And so what we have trouble with is whenever we feed birds, because, feeding, they do like you to feed songbirds. I mean, that works out really well for them. It's not something they don't want you to feed certain animals, but especially in parks and things.
Yeah.
But birds, songbirds, everybody feeds songbirds. It brings them up to you and they're really pretty and everything's nice. And, your kids can identify them. And so it's a lot of fun. The big problem we have is every time we start feeding birds is that woodpeckers move in and they start excavating trenches on the side of my house. And I'm talking like 1 inch wide and about a ½ inch deep, just like Woody Woodpecker, it's exactly like that. I mean, and they excavate out these trenches in the side of my house and I can hear them, and they eventually go away if you stop feeding the birds. And so all the birds, we fed birds for 20 years. And while we occasionally had trouble with the woodpeckers excavating the house whenever you fed, we never really had, it's the same feeder in the same location. Everything's exactly the same. But in the last 2 years, all of a sudden, everyone else is getting in on the act. Last year, we had a chipmunk, which is this little tiny thing about mouse size, little stripes down its back and everything like that. And they gather nuts and, things like that. And so we feed black oil sunflower into the feeder. And he just basically come out of there and, you'd knock on the window and he'd go, is looking at you. And so this year now we've got 2 squirrels competing for it, raccoons scooping it out and eating it at night. And we never really had. I mean, this feeder's been there in exactly the same position for 20 years. And and now word's out, and everybody's getting in on it.
Should get a time-lapse camera on there and do a quick video or something, a time-lapse to see.
Well, there's not a time-lapse problem. We can just sit there and watch them do it. And basically 6 feet away from the window is where this is happening. And the squirrel will turn right around and look at you. And as long as you don't open the door, it's not a problem. If you open the door, they'll run. Dee Dee actually splashed one of them with water a couple times last week. It was funny watching him go hide up under where the firewood was up under where she couldn't get to him. But they will wait. And as soon as they hear the door close, they'll come right back up. There's either you don't fill it up or it doesn't matter. But this winter has not been a bad winter because you usually feed the birds whenever they have a hard time staying warm. The small ones do whenever you have really, really cold temperatures. But other than that 18 I told you the other day, we had, again, that 3 inches of snow last month. That was it. That's way, way down. The last 2 days has been 70 degrees here. And this is February. I mean, it doesn't get that till toward the end of March or coming up into April usually. And we've had our windows open again. I mean, we've got to air out the house in the middle of the winter. It's really cool.
Well, it's been funny here the other day. Like today, I've got the air conditioning on because it's been quite warm. What's it, 34 degrees or something. So it's at around about 90 or something. But then on Monday, I had the heater on because it was only 19 degrees, so it was about 65.
Wow.
Something like, oh, God. I was very reluctant. I thought, I don't want to put the heater on. But, I'm a bit chilly tonight. Whereas tonight, now it's hotter again. But I thought in the same week, it's been crazy this summer. But, like, we're the same here. In February usually is our really, really hot weather, but it hasn't been too bad. I've had a few hot days, but then like on Sunday, as I said, it was rainy, chilly. You would have thought it was a winter's day here. It was quite chilly for us anyway, so you thought it was quite funny there. I just thought I'd show you. I just set this one up. Where is it? See my setup. Can you see that?
Yeah.
See there? We're there.
All right. Okay.
Want to see there? You were in the corner.
There I am. I see it. Yeah.
Corner. So that's the setup there. So.
Oh yeah, and there's your little touchpad thing you're using to control everything.
Yeah, I'm just doing that, and then I can click back onto that. Yeah,
I like it.
But usually on what I do is for the shots, I just use on the keypad there. So
Mhm.
when I can do that, I can't, because this one's on top of everything. So no matter what I change, you won't see anything different on the screen now
Okay.
because it's all underneath on that. So I've got to
Mhm.
use the touchpad and that. But I'll tell you, with the touchpad, I can't use a mouse now. They're just the Apple touchpad.
Yeah.
Is just so good. Anyone else I can't use, but that I just get so used to. Where you don't, as you said, you can use all the thing without moving your wrist with your finger. Whereas a mouse, you still have to move a little bit, no
Mhm.
matter how good you think you are on that one. So, gee, we're going past nearly over that hour mark again, haven't we?
Well, we're getting close.
just-
Took us a couple minutes to get fired up, but I think we are very, very
Yeah.
close to an hour. Yeah, if
Yeah,
we
because
actually put out one that was under an hour, I guess it would just be over, right?
Oh, that's right. So, it's very unusual because, as I said, there's always something to talk about.
Yes.
And if there wasn't anything to talk about, I could always just just sat looking at that.
Oh yeah, yeah. You just sit there and yeah, you got to have your fancy stuff to look at. Very, very
But
nice. I'm starting to learn a little more about the cameras and everything, and like you say, I watched the Tech Down Over, and I also like the Angry Photographer guy, and I had watched some of his stuff before.
But Ken is just such. What I like with Ken as well is he just knows his stuff so much, and I just like watching anybody who knows a subject inside out. I don't
Yes.
care whether they're always 100%, but he's always has facts to back up what he said. A lot of people don't like what he says,
Hmm.
but and that's what he said. That's his opinion or whatever. But he's not a silly man. He
Right.
just. I've just said on there, he's done nearly 300 videos already this year.
Oh, I
And I
know. I
thought,
mean, that is some serious production there.
and as I said, but the thing is, I think I've got to start doing things like that. We'd get together and do this show once a week,
Hmm.
but I should better get a camera to look at that and do that and put that up. He puts things up. It's 2 minutes,
Right.
but it's well worth it because 2
Mhm.
minutes is quite a long time. You don't have to have a big thing to say things, but he puts when he's going along. I saw one of the things he was doing. He was just in the car and turned around, and there was this car that had was covered in stickers
Mhm.
and covered in emblems, and he was just like, look at this, and he's just laughing and and it was just so infectious. Just he just thought it was funny. He said,
Mhm.
this bloke's crazy." But he was just so funny, and he had another one where he just recently put out the other day, which was called Dumb and Dumber.
Oh.
And he was at the university where he used to work or something, and going there saying somebody goes past on the skateboard. He said he thinks he's really good doing this, you see. But I felt like think that, gee, if I went to a college campus with a camera, you'd probably get arrested doing that. They're filming that. You'd say, "What are you up to, aren't you?" So,
Well, I remember taking one of my pictures. I actually laid the camera down on the rail, a railroad rail, just set it
yeah.
on it, and then took the picture out the rail. And a friend of mine from England said, "How in the world did you get that close to a railroad?" I just parked and walked over to it. I mean, I live out in the country, and there's a railroad right down at the bottom of the mountain here, and there's a place to park, and I just parked off the edge of the road and walked over, laid the thing on there, kept looking both ways to make sure there wasn't a train coming, used a timer, and took 2 or 3 shots and picked it up, got back in the car. That's what you do. I mean, it's not like somebody's watching the railroads, you know.
But a lot of the time, I think, like here, they're all covered in with fences, so you can't get to the tracks a lot of the times here, unless, like you said, you've got to be if you're in the country, there's just too many miles of that to be totally protected, isn't there? So,
well, they actually send they know if there's something wrong going up the track because they send a current through the track to let them know. So if it's broken, then there's a problem, and so they automatically slow down and look for it.
So if you stick your tongue on the track, will it give you a shock?
I imagine it probably would. I don't think I'll do that though. People put coins on the track and watch them get all flat and stuff. It's kind of funny.
Well, that's what the thing is. Yeah, they want to see. But what I used to like watching is when they do work on the railroad, and I don't know if they do that in your place, but what they do here, they put these caps on the track, the proper workers,
Okay.
and they put them up, a mile up the track, and it's somebody's job. They put the cap on there, and then when the train's coming, it explodes like a big explosion. So the workers know, even if they haven't gone to the schedule to get off the track, and then it's somebody else to put the caps back on. And I thought just to do that, but I think as technology's got on, I haven't heard them do that much these days. Maybe it's just somebody's up there and radios and get off, but there's still nothing better than a bit of a explosion to get your attention. Is just a little bang when rather than just a radio. But it's amazing.
Exactly.
You said how many people got killed by just taking selfies and that on railroad tracks, isn't it? So
easily. Yeah, no, there are people every year you hear of somebody in our state specifically that gets hit. At least one person a year gets killed by walking on the railroad tracks. And the last time I heard about it happening, a guy was actually deaf, and he was walking on the railroad tracks, and of course they can't stop, and the train comes up and just takes him out, and he didn't even know it was coming. I guess he didn't feel the rumble or anything. The biggest deal I ever saw with a train, and we were sitting on a parking lot of a store. It was the Walmart back then. It was Kmart, but it was before Walmart, but it was way, way back in the day. And we were sitting on a parking lot while our mother was in the store, and we watched a train hit a tractor trailer.
Oh.
It hit it right where the cab and the trailer connected, and just burst the thing and threw all kinds of boxes up in the air. It's almost like everything went into slow motion. And then you could see the cab just rolling, with the driver in it. The driver walked away from it with no trouble at all, but boy, did it tear things up around that area there.
But it just amazes me how, like you said, cars just break down on the middle of a train track. Got all this way to go, and then they just decide to stop. But then everybody's so concerned about their property, they won't just get out and leave it. They have to stay with it, don't they? It's just they've still got that thought that they're going to start the car and do it, but it's you haven't got a chance with that. You just get out and leave it. But it's we had one here the other day. It broke down and just left it in the middle of the train track, and then the train was coming. It tried, but it couldn't stop, so it just had to flung it out. But luckily, it didn't. I don't think it derailed the train anyway. So
Nah, that's what cow catchers are for on the front of trains.
that's right. Just to plow them through.
Yeah,
through
they just send them out to the sides. Yeah.
Anyway, yes, so we've finished another episode of the weekly catch up. So we're all okay for next week. The show number 30, and it's the 1st of March next week.
I will have to talk to you about that after the show, but maybe not. But I will have to talk to you about that.
Okay, no. Well, and as well, it's next week that it'll be a bit of a milestone. Next week I qualify to go into a retirement village.
You were telling me about that. Yeah. No, that sounds like fun.
On the 28th, which is the Tuesday. So
yay! That sounds fun. I don't think you're going though, right?
No, not yet. Anyway, thanks for everybody for watching. So please subscribe to the weekly catch up to get alerted to when we put another episode up there, and we'll catch you all next week. Hopefully, anyway. Bye for now.
Thank you so much for listening. Links for a free subscription, feedback, and everything else we do is at holbrooknewmedia.com. You can find all things Geoff Blanchard at geoffblanchard.com.